your tears, lay your fears down to rest. Go, leave these walls, heed my call, bear my
My name is Ben Whitmore, and I make music under the name Evening Divide. The name Evening Divide comes from the book of Genesis, where Jacob is blessing each of his sons, and he says of Benjamin, that Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, at evening dividing the spoil. And Evening Divide songs are really me wrestling with life and with questions and processing, and my hope is that as I devour that prey, that I'd be able to bring the spoil back, and that it would be a blessing to people to listen to.
Free from fear, this world here needs our love.
This EP is called Listen to the Light, and the title comes from the first track. And this song was inspired first by thinking about others around me in community, but then it actually became much more personal after I wrote it. My family went through some tragedy in the year of 2023, and in the midst of that, feeling like the darkness was shouting. And I think many of us have times in our life where it really feels like there's nothing good, that it's all darkness all the time, and we can make a choice to believe that and to listen to the darkness. But we have to remember that there is always light. It may be whispering very faintly, but we actually always have the choice. We can listen to the darkness, or we can choose to listen to the light. And that's kind of what this first song lays out, and I hope it's a challenge for all of us to choose to listen to the light.
Across the seas, across the hills, till my feet began to bleed from walking fast, from standing still, as the light whispers its word to our naked eyes. We choose to heed the voice of the night shouting, raging until it light. First the pain was the sensation that I let become a thief. It robbed my joy, it took my hope. When you love what you deny, and you deny what you can't hide, the life you live is just to give some violence to tattered myths. If I could grant your every wish and could indulge your every whim, my love would prove a wicked thing, 'cause what you want is poison, as the line whispers its word
Another song on the EP is called The Sound of the Whale. And this also was inspired by a scripture coming from Zechariah. And I feel like every time I read the prophets, I end up writing some song because the prophets are so poetic. And in Zechariah 11, there's a line that says, "The sound of the wail of the shepherds as their glory is ruined." And something about the rhythm of the line, and then the next line has a similar rhythm, at least in the ESV translation. And it just inspired me to begin writing. So I started writing in that same cadence, that same pattern of syllables. And I ended up writing, I don't know, probably 10 different stanzas at least. And as I started sifting through these stanzas, they were pretty abstract, but I noticed that many of them were images of change. Some of them were gradual change, like water wearing smooth a cliff, or some of them were more sudden changes, like lightning or like fire. And then anchoring it in the message of the prophets, and also just a tension that I see within Scripture is the mercy and the judgment of God. And so this song is much more abstract, but I hope that it can kind of be an invitation for reflection over this tension that we see, that there is mercy, that there's always mercy being extended, but we also need to make no mistake that justice is coming. And then we need to be prepared to respond accordingly. And that movement can be gradual, but it also can be sudden. And so it's a bit of a warning, it's a bit of a sobering, but I also think it's hopeful whenever we're in the midst of suffering to remember that yes, there is mercy, there's grace, but God is not mocked, and there will be justice.
The sound of the blameless bloodshed crying from this very ground. The sound of the seed in the soil, dying as the tree takes root. The sound of the calling
The last song on the EP is called A Broad View Through a Narrow Window. I mentioned earlier, my family went through a difficult time in 2023. In May, my wife was almost 7 months pregnant, and we found that the baby girl had died. And so her body had to be delivered, and it was a really, really difficult process of grief and of loss. And in that time, I was reflecting a lot on Job, and there was a specific sermon by a Black American minister named Gardner C. Taylor, and he writes about how in the process of Job's tragedy, the window out of which he sees his life narrows. And the principle is sometimes we actually get a more broad view through that narrow window, and that it's on the other side of suffering that we actually can experience closeness with God, and we can experience clarity as to what is really important in life. And that's been my experience. It still is painful, but I know that God is present. And we named the little girl Aletheia, which is the Greek word for truth. And in the song, I talk about how we will hear the truth and we'll see the truth. And of course, I mean that literally, the truth. But I also mean that specifically in the belief that death is not the end, and that in the age to come, I actually will get to meet Aletheia and see her face to face.
When the friends who sat in silence with you cannot hold their tongues, and the accusations come through thin disguise, when the questions far outmatch the simple answers hurled at you, may you hear and see the truth. You can hear the truth and see the truth. You can hear and see the truth. You can hear the truth and see the truth. You can hear and see the truth. When the 13th
And the process of creating this EP, recording these songs, and especially getting to share them live with friends was really, really special. Part of my healing journey and grieving process, and it's really an honor to get to share them.
I will see a broad view. I will hear and see the truth. Thank you guys.